And welcome to another episode of Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff and Matt as we recap last night's victory over the Lions by a score of 16-9. I'm not going to forget to put up there we go. Now it's official. It's not official until we get the super up there. So 16-9, Eagles with a victory over the Lions. Now, I know that I mentioned in our preview podcast that you can't expect the Eagles to score 10 points and beat the Lions. Well, guess what? If the Eagles scored 10 points, they would have beat the Lions. It just goes to show you how unpredictable, no matter how much we try to predict, football is. So, the Eagles hold the Lions, the high-flying Lions, who are averaging 33 points a game this year, to 9 points. So, Matt, before I dig into the game any further, your general thoughts on the game?
Certainly, certainly surprised by the final score of this game and surprised by how the game went. I thought the defense would have impressed a little bit more by this highfalutin Lions offense, and instead the defense completely shut them down. And then I expected the mismatch to be our offense versus the Lions defense, and that's not a thing at all. Our biggest mismatch on offense appears to be our offense versus our offense, and that is where they either go or they don't go. And you can flip a coin. I have no idea what the deal is or what the problem is on offense.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I kind of have it almost two trains of thought. One, I'm like ready to come on this show after last night's game and just blast this freaking offense, because watching it now for it's really 2 weeks now that's been horrible. And a lot of the season, it's been just bad. The last 2 weeks, it's been just horrendous. And it probably was even worse last night than it was against the Packers. Against the Packers. And I kind of excused it a little bit for the Packers, because the Packers have a really good defense. Detroit doesn't have like this really good defense. They have a couple of really good players, obviously Hutchinson, but they also were banged up. We talked about it in the pregame, the preview show, how many injuries they had. So this is not even, them at full strength on defense. And this Eagles offense just continues to just be so painful to watch. I used that name rather when I was texting you last night. I'm like, this team's just painful to watch play offense. I had a chance yesterday because I really have a lot going on. Usually Sundays I'm now able to watch, sit down and really just have a full day of football. Yesterday was one of those days where I watched football from the early game. The Washington game, it started at 9. Pretty much the entire day I was watching football. And I was watching teams go up and down the field in all the different games all day. And then I watched the Eagles last night. Once again, just can't move the ball. 3 and out. Good field position. How many times? It just tells you how much respect, and I don't blame him, that Dan Campbell had for our offense. He went for it how many times on fourth down? 4 or 5 times. Didn't make it either time, but didn't care, because he's like, we can stop this offense. So it's like, and why wouldn't he think that? So that's one train of thought where I just wanted to beat the crap out of this team and just vent. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, let's take a step back. We talked all season about how hard this schedule has been. They've played a lot of tough games and a lot of tough teams. And believe me, I'm not trying to use this as an excuse. I'm just trying to say I got two trains of thought here. They played a lot of good teams. It's not like they've played crappy teams and have not been able to score and look really solid offensively. So there's that. And then even in a broader, bigger picture, out of the last 27 games, you want to know what the Eagles' record is? Want to take a guess?
25-2.
Close. 24. Matt needs a cough button. 24-3. So
it's impressive.
Why do I just want to blow off steam and just say how much this offense sucks and rip them to shreds like I really want to, when they're 24-3 in the last 27 games. And like I said, they've played a very tough schedule this year. So I can go either direction. Bottom line is this offense is still bad, regardless of how you want to spin it. But I'm kind of not going to shred them like I really was during the game last night. I decided to just kind of take that approach. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think even the refs are trying to help the Eagles offense out by throwing that completely phantom pass interference flag in the fourth quarter. Like totally, there's
Bad
nothing
call.
there. Like completely, like I'm like, it's the part of me where I'm like, did that guy have money on the game? Like he was expecting AJ to get one more catch. Like I don't get what that flag was totally useless there. Like totally useless. The other flag, I'm starting to understand why people don't like the tush push. It's because you absolutely can't officiate it correctly like the penalty that they called on Fred Johnson when he's tapping the guy's hand in the neutral zone, like you got to back that hand up. like that's a neutral zone infraction and they can't get that. So Mike, if there's any argument for negating the tush push,
it was actually Steen, man. It was actually Steen.
Tyler Steen. So they can't officiate it correctly. Become apparent. Yeah. So, plus the only other interesting thing that stood out to that game, because none of it's worth talking about except for the defense. The only other interesting thing was the tush push was stopped twice, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that real quick because here's another thing that I have a very interesting spin on. Because it was just the previous week where in the Green Bay game when I was all over Sirianni for not punting it. I'm like, what the hell? I was like outraged by that decision when he could have just he should have punted it in the fourth quarter, but he decided to what did he go? He went for it, didn't he? Yeah. So
there's some speculation,
and then in this game, there's
some speculation on that play. Whether Hurts and AJ Brown called that up between AJ Brown and Smitty, and that they would have just called it, and Nick just defended him by saying, "Oh yeah, well, yada." But maybe. Either way, he had the offense on the field, so clearly Nick wasn't going to
punt the ball there. And he wasn't even in the post-game press conference. You're right. He defended. He just said that, he didn't even mention punting. It was like, I decided to go for it, or thought it was too far to kick field goal. You punt. He didn't even mention punt. You punt the ball there. And I was just irate over that. Now, last night, there's a lot of fans going berserk in the media about him, not punting when they got stopped those 2 times in a row on the tush push. I can't be a hypocrite here. I can't change what my train of thought was while I was watching the game live. I'm not going to do that. I didn't have a problem with it. Ironically, I absolutely did not have a problem with it, which sounds crazy because when you think about it, and I do today, they should have punted it. But at the time when I was watching the game, I didn't think there was any chance that the Lions would stop them twice in a row in the tush push. So I'm not going to sit there now on Monday morning quarterback and say, oh, yeah, Sirianni should have punted it there. Yeah, he should have in hindsight. But when I was watching the game, I was not going crazy because Sirianni did not punt the ball after they failed on the third down tush push, moved about a half yard because I think it was 3rd and 1. They tush pushed it, made it to about 3rd and a half a yard or 4th and a half a yard, and he went for it again, and he got stopped twice in a row. I actually did not have a problem with it, so I'm not going to sit there and go crazy today blaming Sirianni for that stupid play, even though Sirianni, he kind of backed away from it today and said, yeah, he should have punted it. I had no problem watching it live. What was when you were going through that, did you think he should have punted it there? Or were you kind of like me thinking, yeah, just tush push it again, get the first down?
No, I thought this is what they do. They're going to tush push it, and I expected them to get the first down. That's okay. All.
Yeah, so we had the same exact reaction, even though it was very much in there, like it was deeper into the territory this game than it was, when he decided to go for it last game. But, I was okay with it. Now, it obviously allowed Detroit, who had no business having an opportunity to come back in that game, the opportunity to come back because They didn't make it. They had the ball at like the 30-yard line of the Eagles, so they only had to go. It might even been more than that. It might have been like the 28-yard line, whatever it was. So they kicked a field goal, and now all of a sudden it became a one possession game. And then that flag that you're talking about on AJ Brown basically iced the game for the Eagles. That bad call that they made, because that was not pass interference. So yeah, but they're going nuts today about Sirianni. Going for it on the 4th and half a yard with the 2 straight tush pushes. I can't join them for that, because when I was watching it live, I was okay with it. I thought I would have done the same thing. I mean, how many times have they ever been caught 2 straight, not moved the ball at least 1 yard on 2 straight tush pushes? I can't even remember. I can't remember that ever happening. So,
no. If anything, getting stopped, maybe that makes them push away from the tush push and gets a little bit creative on offense. We'll only tell and tell. But I had no problem with it. That didn't stand out from the game. Really, the only thing that stood out from the game,
because it actually did allow Detroit to have a chance at that point.
Yeah,
because they didn't make it.
But even then,
the other thing that people are saying is that there was no Lane Johnson and there was no Juergens on the line when he decided to still do 2 straight tush pushes. So I can get that sentiment, but again, even with the injuries, I knew that those 2 guys were not in that play last night, and I still didn't have a problem with it. So I'm not going to sit there and go crazy about it right now. So I was okay with it. I was okay with the call. I know I'm probably in the minority, but you also have the same opinion, apparently.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, it is. I don't know how much of the media. I wanted to bring it up. So, all right, Matt and I didn't have a problem with it, so we're both on the same page there. All right, so now, speaking of injuries, we'll get into this real quick. The big news coming out today is Lane Johnson, who left the game early again yesterday, has a Lisfranc injury. Apparently, it's a sprain, not a break. If it was a break, he'd be done for the season. But it is a sprain, which means you just tore some ligaments rather than breaking any bones. But it's still a very tricky injury. He's going to be out at minimum of 4 to 6 weeks. So the Eagles have already said he's not going to be back for the regular season, and they're hoping to get him back for the playoffs. But it's one of those injuries where Lisfranc is a tough injury. Those can linger for months. So we got to just keep our fingers crossed that Lane is going to be able to at least get to the point where he's able to get back on the field for the playoffs, because we know how tough he is. And if there's anybody that can at least play, even if it's not 100%, it'll be Lane. But that's a very tricky injury. Remember, Deuce Staley had it. First time I ever heard of Lisfranc was when Deuce Staley had it back in like 2000 or late 90s, I guess. When did Deuce play? Late 90s? First time I heard of it, and he missed the whole season. He got injured like week 4 or week 5, and he was done for the whole year. So now he had the break. He didn't have the sprain. It's a little bit different, but still, it's a very tricky injury. So no Lane Johnson the rest of the season, and thankful for Fred Johnson, because man, I'd hate to have Pryor being our right tackle for the rest of the year.
We'd be in trouble. We've been here before. Lane Johnson has missed games before. If it's 4 weeks, great. If it's 6 weeks, little bad, but still lined up perfectly for the playoffs. So if because it's a sprain, not a break, Lane Johnson should be back for the playoffs. We're going to go to the playoffs. Thank God we signed Fred Johnson back to this team. I keep saying it week after week. I thank God we have Fred Johnson.
Yeah, we'll say it again. So, all right. Any other thoughts on the game before we get into player grades?
No.
Which for me is going to be really quick. Okay. All right, let's move on to player grades then. You want to start us off? Mine are very simple. So I have basically one on each. I have 1 A grade.
Yeah.
And I have 1 D grade. And I'm done.
So I'll go with an A+ to Quinton Mitchell for totally shutting down the Detroit Lions passing game.
He is. They showed his stats during the game last night, and he has not given up a touchdown the whole season. And I think he's like, I don't know if they said he was the top in the league with like the players passes defended or whatever. Anyway, he's whatever the case may be. He's having an amazing season. He's actually had, I guess it's not a surprise he's having a better season than last year. He's going to get better. He's only a rookie last year, but he is as good as it gets right now in the NFL, and he's just awesome. He's awesome to watch. He basically shuts half of the field down. That's how good he is. He's now a shut down corner. I think he's reached that level. And yeah, definitely an A. Now here's my A's. It's very simple the way I broke this game down. Didn't really spend a lot of time on it. So I guess I'll leave it up to you to break it down individually if you want. Me, A, the entire defense. Like I said, I'm keeping it simple. The entire defense.
Can't argue with that.
It's an A from last night. I mean,
yeah, they only got beat really on the one play from Jamison Williams, right? Mm-hmm. Where he just outran Dory Jackson, but Jackson got smoked. You just couldn't catch up to him. So that's really the only vulnerability that it showed. Everything else just shut them down.
There's really only
the Lions looked
two plays. That one there, and then the Gibbs play, the quick screen to Gibbs where he just took it like 40 yards himself and just outran everybody. But that's the type of player he is. And Jameis is a fast guy too. And I thought Dory Jackson, I've still given him an A. I mean, he still played very well. If you ask me, he gave up that one touchdown pass to Jameson. But I thought he was very good. Thought he played very well.
Yeah, I didn't realize how often Geoff was getting pressured until I saw the replay, and he was just getting pressured on every snap.
He was like 13 of 38 or something like that. It was his worst career game in the NFL for Jared Goff, who came into the game with a 75% completion percentage. And he was like 13 for 38 or something like that. It was by far his worst game as a professional. So, yeah, the D line was relentless. I mean, Phillips has made such a huge difference just to get a guy, because I think really when they brought Phillips in, it kind of puts everyone else in line where they're supposed to be, right? We were kind of, we didn't know if Hunt was ready to kind of be a full-time starter, and he kind of showed this year that he really wasn't. But now that he's like coming in as the 3 guy, look how he's been great the last couple games since Phillips been here. Every time he's in there, he's making stuff happen now too. So Hunt's been really good. Obviously, they got Smith back, who he now doesn't have the pressure of being the number 1 guy. He could be the number 2 guy, and he's doing a good job since he's been back. It's just everyone kind of just falls in line here with Phillips being here. And this line, I mean, the tackles are just – how many balls did they bat down yesterday between Jordan Davis and Carter? You saw Carter just absolutely steamroll that one guy on that play. I mean, that's Jerome Brown-esque. We talked about, him reminding us of Jerome Brown when we saw him coming out of college tape. Like, this guy's got a potential to be the next Jerome Brown. That's what Jerome Brown, for those of you who never saw him play, used to do. Just absolutely maul the person in front of him. And that's what Carter did on that play last night. And even if he's not just running a guy over like that, he's always the guy who is kind of leading the pressure or pushing that pocket back into the quarterback's face. It's usually Carter that's leading that role. So, and then once they do that, it allows Phillips and Smith around the end, or Hunt, whoever's in there, they're right in beeline for him. That's what's happening. So the pocket collapses or pushes back, and who's right in line to meet at the quarterback? Smith and I think, who was it that almost split him in half last night? It was Phillips and Hunt, I think.
Well, you also had Nakobe Dean pressure on a couple blitzes.
Yeah.
And Nakobe Dean, best game. Yeah, Dean was possibly the best defender on the field. Like, for a guy that missed half of last, and he is back, and he went up a level with only like 2 or 3 weeks under his belt this season. He's gone up a total weekend. So like, it's just amazing to watch him come back and play. And like 2 years ago, we were like, is the window closing on Nakobe Dean being able to just take his place on the linebacker spot and like make it his own. And I'm like, he's totally there. I thought he was dominant. And we talked about his run coverage the week before and the tackles for losses, but his blitzes were perfectly timed. And man, he came through and just totally demolished a big 230-pound running back, like quarterback, and he just smashed him. And like, Dean is playing fierce, like he's huge, so huge a part of this defense. And we said when he came back that they were lacking leadership, and when he came back in the field, like everything started to fall into place, with Jalen Phillips being the last puzzle piece there. But I thought Dean was like exploding off of the TV in a defense that everyone was making plays. I was like, Dean might be the most impressive one.
Yeah, I think I was just kind of talking about the line specifically, about how with Phillips there, kind of everyone kind of has now assumed they're really kind of where they're supposed to be. Like it was a little too soon maybe to put Hunt as the number 2, and Smith, a lot of pressure for him to then be the number 1 with Sweat gone and those guys. So that was kind of what my point was there. But yeah, there's no doubt that it's not just a coincidence that with the Kobe Dean since he's been back into this defensive lineup, this defense has gone to a different level. I mean, that's been pretty clear. And I mean, all the way across from the D line to the linebacking to the secondary, it just has helped everything and everyone. And you mentioned how he was almost being run out of town because of his injuries and just wasn't able to kind of establish himself. And this is the same guy that I predicted when he was drafted. I'm like, this guy is going to be our leader and captain on our defense. I said that before he even had a snap in the NFL, and I wasn't looking that good of a, I didn't look that smart 3 years into his career saying that. But I think now you're seeing what I was predicting 3-4 years ago when they drafted him. I'm like, this is guy that will be the leader and captain of this defense. Now, the key to this is going to be this, and this is where I wanted to have this little bit of a discussion as I go a little bit of a tangent from the game, because we're seeing the importance of Dean, and yet even guys like Reuben Frank, John McMullen, some of these big-time beat followers, reporters of the Eagles don't expect the Eagles to keep Dean here. Like they think he's gone next year, and the Eagles went out and signed him because they don't have a lot of cap space. And this is where when you can factor in AJ and what's going on with him, I really think, or if I was Howie, I'd be really starting to seriously think about re-signing Dean and Phillips.
Yeah.
And Phillips, both of those guys, and letting AJ go.
100%. I'm on the same page with that.
And that's the only way they're going to be able to afford him, because they have other guys we talked about at length that they need to sign, like Carter, and then eventually they're, Cooper and Mitchell and Jordan Davis. So they already have funds sort of hopefully allocated for those guys, not including Dean. That's the thing. Right now, I don't think going into the season they were really probably expecting or wanting to necessarily keep Dean. But I don't know how you can let Dean go, showing right now how important he is to this defense. There's just not just a coincidence that since he's been back in this D that they're playing as well as they are. So the only way they're going to be able to afford Phillips and Dean is to get rid of AJ's $31 million contract. I don't want to really get too much into it. I did want to kind of just bring it up because I want Nakobe Dean here next year, and I want Phillips here next year. And if it means that AJ Brown's got to go, I'm going to be okay with it. Now, sounds like you agree. We'll save that and shelf that for the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to kind of put that out there. And, yeah. Now, that's all I really have. Yeah. Oh, we got to get to any other player grades that you have or want to point out as far as the A grade. I've got everybody covered.
Well, Tank Bigsby. Yeah, Tank Bigsby came in and just went forward for his 3 or 4 carries. He kind of was a spark in the second half, so he deserves some credit for coming in. I mean, Barkley runs hard every game, so yeah, Barkley's never really going to be below like a B plus. Hey, the thing that killed them on offense was just the stupid penalties and just the being out of sync. They dropped a couple of balls early that would have helped them get in the rhythm, and then they just never got into anything.
No. Hurts, I thought, played one of his worst season. He was all over the place. Now,
yeah, he looked off.
Was it the wind? I mean, you've got to probably the wind was a little bit of a factor. If it was a more of because the wind was blowing at like 30 gusts to 40 miles an hour, that's going to definitely impact some throws. But I don't know. It's not like he was throwing deep downfield. And we saw Geoff, the few that he did complete, he completed them okay. Whenever he had a time to do it, that was his main issue. But when he did throw it, Geoff didn't seem to have much issues in terms of getting it to the guys that he needed to when he wasn't under pressure. I don't know. I just outside of the one pass, and that was even short to Dotson, he was just off. He was just off.
Yeah.
Hurts did not have that good of a game. Now, Smith had a couple drops, but I don't think either one of those passes were that great, especially the second one. That was kind of into the dirt. So that I think I'm really blame for that.
Yeah, Goddard dropped one right in his breadbasket early on the first drive, and you're like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, got to catch that.
I think it was on a third down. Like that would have gotten them a first down and kept that first drive alive. And just okay, here we go. This is the type of night is what that first drop pass did. Yeah. Dotson just catches everything that's so another reason why AJ can walk.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't use him more. And then it's the other thing. This is where I get critical. I mean, about the Eagles' offensive play call. It's like, okay, if you want to focus on AJ, we kind of all saw this coming. That they were going to try to force feed AJ to just keep his yapper shut for a week. That's fine. But then why do you completely not throw to Smith the whole game? Outside of those first two passes early on, I don't think he was targeted the whole rest of the game. I don't understand how it's got to be one or the other. Where's the balance? Why can't you throw a few to AJ and then maybe the next series or a couple of series later, target Smith a couple times? No, it's like AJ and that's it. We're just going to go to AJ. We're not going to throw to Smith the rest of the game. And then,
a lot of that
around for a lot of the year where they just gone to Smith and haven't targeted AJ at all. Like, why can't they just mix it up? And is it Hurts or is it play call? Is it Hurts that only beat, keys on one guy the whole game? Or is it the play call? I don't know.
Well, and how much is Hurts allowed to audible, right? Like, I thought in the beginning of the season he was allowed to audible out of a lot of plays, and it looked like there wasn't much of that going on. So, I don't know. Who knows? With this offense, it's impossible to diagnose. Yeah, I'm hoping they just show up in the playoffs like they did last year. That's where I'm at.
It is frustrating because it's not like this team is like McNabb when he had no weapons. This team has got weapons all over the field and they can't move the ball. That's what's frustrating. And that's what gets me just absolutely just fuming by the third quarter almost every Eagle game. Like they can't. How is this team going 3 and out when you got A.J. Brown, Smith, Goddard? You have top talent at every position. You have Barkley. And you can't get a first down?
Well, maybe time to go back to what won for them last year. Commit to the run, play good defense. Run. That might be in the game plan for Dallas. And ideally it should be. Just run through that Swiss cheese defensive line of the Cowboys. But
yeah,
I don't know. We'll find out. Only time will tell.
Well, here's the thing. The schedule that I was referring to in the early part of the podcast about how strong it's been. They have played a lot of good teams. So, a lot of these teams had really good defenses. What's coming up? None of these teams have good defenses. The Cowboys have one of the worst defenses in the league. They play Washington a couple times coming up here over the next month. They have one of the worst defenses in the league. You have the Raiders. They're one of the worst teams in the league. And then even Buffalo, who's a really good team, their defense is horrible too. So if there's a time for this offense to finally get going, it might be within the next 4 or 5 games. If they can't get it going against these defenses, I mean, they're ranked 29th, 30th. They're like the worst defenses in the league. If the Eagles can't start moving the ball now, that's even going to be a bigger red flag as they head into the playoffs. But again, that's why I refer back to that record. Even as pitiful as this offense has been, the Eagles out of their last 27 games have 24 wins. So it's like, just might be one of those teams who just
Can't argue with that.
win ugly all the time. I don't know. But
I'll take
the
another
defense
championship.
deserves all the credit in the world. To hold the Packers at Lambeau to, 10 points last week? And then to hold what was the final Packers game? Like 10-6 or something like that? Well, I can't even remember what the final was in that game. But anyway, wasn't it 10 to something?
Less points.
What's that?
10-7, I thought.
10-7? And so you hold the Packers
10-7.
Yeah, whatever. It was maybe they had I can't remember the final score now, but it was less than 10 points and all that because the Eagles had 10 and they won. So my point is, to hold that team at Lambeau down to that many points, and then the high flying, just coming off a game where they scored 44 points, averaging 33 points on the season per game, to hold the Lions to 9 points is unbelievably incredible feat by the defense. So hats off to the defense. Maybe this offense can get it going against some teams that don't have as good a defense. They play Dallas next week, so obviously going to talk about that during pregame. It's Dallas hate week. Matt already sent you a picture of Brandon Graham, who's at the Sixers game tonight, and he's got a Cowboys hat on with the censor mark, or he's crossed out or something like that. So Brandon Graham's already in Dallas hate mode for the week. But the Cowboys are next. I think it's their late game, the second game, 4:00 or whatever on Sunday. So always a lot to talk about with the Cowboys. And they're playing the Raiders tonight. I don't know, Matt, if you got the game on or you have a update on the score in that game at all.
Yeah, I'm cheating at it. It's over here off to the sidewall there, but it's 10-6 right now, Dallas.
10-6 Dallas. Okay,
and they're driving with 9.5 left in the second.
All right, There you go. I had a feeling you had it on there, Matt. So, yep. So that's the latest right now. Up to date. 10-6, you said? 10-6?
Yep.
Okay, 10-6 Cowboys. So, yeah, the Eagles going to play both of those teams over the next few weeks. Cowboys and the Raiders. So, again, schedule's going to get a little bit easier now. They're not going to be with Lane Johnson. So, I guess if you're going to head into the weaker part of your schedule, not having Lane maybe won't be as impactful, but certainly we know how much he means to this offense. So, thankfully, like Matt said, the Eagles signed Fred Johnson early in the season because, man, what a gaping hole when we put Pryor out there before. He was horrendous. So we don't want to see Pryor out there. So, all right, getting to the wanted to mention the prediction. So Matt had. Where is it here? Matt had a
34-20.
24, and I had 27-24. So both of us definitely gave the Eagles offense way too many points. Actually, both teams. So we had the scoring a little bit high. But I wanted to see. I don't know if I have it up here now. I think prediction-wise, I know I had the Eagles losing in the preseason. I don't have it in front of me right now. That game, but I changed it. And again, I'm going to stick to what I said. Is the reason why I changed it to the Eagles versus the preseason. I had the Eagles losing this game, and it was because of Laporta not being in this offense last night. I do think that if Laporta had played last night, that the Eagles, especially the way the Eagles offense played, I still think Detroit would have figured out, probably had enough offense because he probably would have been able to throw those shorter passes to Laporta when he needed to get rid of the ball quicker. And I think it would have made a big difference. I guess so. I guess mainly what I'm saying is I think if Laporta did play last night, which is the reason why I switched my score, I think Detroit probably still would have won. But we don't know because the defense was so damn good. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
What they did, they had Cooper. What they were doing last night was kind of interesting. They had Cooper running with St. Brown. Like he was the one that was like, if St. Brown was in motion, it was always Cooper fouling him. But I think what they did, and I didn't rewatch the game, but I think they had Cooper covering him like inside the 10 yards and in. And then if he was going deeper past 10 yards, I think Q overtook the coverage. I don't know that. I'm kind of speculating because I know that in most of those plays, it was Cooper that was covering St. Brown. but they were giving Q a lot of credit this morning for shutting down St. Brown. And I'm like, well, wasn't Cooper on him most of the time? At least from what I recall. So maybe they kind of like both were covering him. I don't know if you noticed anything like that, but I just know that every time he was in motion, it was Cooper that was fouling St. Brown. But they were crediting Q last night for shutting him down. I don't know.
Yeah, without Porta on the field, I think they doubled Brown a lot between Cooper and Quinyon, ultimately.
Yeah, I think that's what they were doing. So I think it would have made a difference. Like I really, and especially since the Eagles' offense just couldn't do anything, I think if Laporta played last night, might have had a different outcome. But who knows? The defense was so damn good last night. Maybe that wouldn't have mattered either. So that's. You have any final thoughts? And we'll end the podcast.
No,
and we'll
just put another win. Throw the win in the back pocket and on to Dallas week.
On to Dallas.
Everyone's going to speculate. Everyone's going to talk more, but ultimately it's a win. So let's go on to Dallas.
That's it. A win is a win is a win is a win, as I say, and there's a lot of truth to that. Eagles go to 8-2. They needed the win because they got to stay ahead of the Rams. Even though if they end up with a tie with the Rams, Eagles get the tiebreaker because they beat them. But the Rams, you'd still much rather play them in Philly in the playoffs and get home field advantage, whoever they're playing, whether it's the Rams. Right now, what's interesting, Matt, is that if the season ended today, the Chiefs, the Lions, both of those teams are out of the playoffs. If the season ended right now. No Lions, no Chiefs. It's very interesting. So.
And no Ravens.
No Ravens.
Ravens are in the hunt. Nope, no Ravens either. So crazy.
Yeah, they start off 1-5. Now they're 5-5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'd be a dangerous team if they get in, if they can get everything straightened out, because there were a lot of experts, preseason picks to be a Super Bowl team this year. So, if they're going to get healthy, but they seem to be. Their defense is starting to get a little healthy now. And obviously Jackson's back in the fold. So, yeah, that'll be a dangerous team if they get in. But the Chiefs being out, that's very interesting. Like right now, the Chiefs would not be in the playoffs. So, all right. Well, with that, we'll be back probably. How's Saturday morning looking for you, man? Actually, hang on. I can't do Saturday morning. So, I got my 2-day big sports guard show. So, how about Friday?
Yeah,
Friday night, maybe?
Yeah.
If you can do Friday night, we'll shoot for Friday night. So Friday night, Matt and I will be back with the and if it's not Friday, it could potentially be Thursday. We'll see how Matt's schedule plays out the rest of the week here. But we'll shoot for Friday night for the Eagles Dallas Hate Week preview. So until then, as we always say, fly Eagles fly. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and like. Make sure you comment if you like, and let us know what your thoughts are on the game last night and what the Eagles can do to fix this offense. And with that, fly Eagles fly. First place, 8-2. Fly Eagles fly. I'll say it again, and we'll catch you next time.
Okay. First place, baby.
There we go. See you guys.